The morning audience at the Vatican looked routine on paper, another entry in a schedule already filled with meetings and polite photographs. Yet as Pope Leo XIV welcomed Cardinal Gerhard Ludwig Müller, the room carried a weight that went far beyond ceremony. Müller, the former prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, was not a quiet or neutral presence. He had become known across Catholic circles for his sharp defense of doctrine and his direct criticism of what he saw as the growing personalization of the papacy. The announcement of their meeting was brief and sober, but the implications rippled quickly through observers both inside the church and beyond its walls, because the audience did not stand alone. It came during a period in which Leo XIV's style of governance had already sparked discussion, confusion, and deep reflection. From the beginning of his pontificate, Leo XIV had chosen an approach many described as universal listening. He met people from across the theological and ideological spectrum, opened doors that once seemed closed, and embraced conversations that others might have avoided. To supporters, this was a sign of pastoral openness and an effort to bring a divided church into dialogue with itself. To critics, it risked creating a haze where distinctions blurred and convictions lost clarity. The Pope welcomed nearly everyone who asked for an audience, regardless of their history or reputation, and the images that emerged from these encounters began to form a narrative of their own. The Church, after all, speaks not only through official documents but through gestures, photographs, and the symbolic language of who stands beside the Pope and when. If you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos like this, because what you're about to hear is not just news, it's a wake-up call for every heart that still believes truth should burn brighter than silence. Now grab your rosary, quiet your spirit, and let your heart listen, not just with ears, but with faith. Cardinal Müller arrived with a reputation shaped by years of strong statements about the nature of papal authority. Only days before the audience, he had given an interview in which he warned against what he called a cult of the Pope, a phrase chosen to provoke reflection and perhaps discomfort. He argued that the Pope must never be treated as a charismatic idol or the founder of a new church. The faith, he insisted, does not belong to the personality of any pontiff but to the Church itself, received through tradition and revelation. In his view, the Pope's role is to safeguard and transmit doctrine, not to reinvent it according to personal vision. His comments reflected a classical understanding of the Petrine ministry, the Pope as a bishop among bishops, a successor of Peter who serves unity not by charisma but by fidelity to what has been handed down. Müller's concerns were not limited to theology alone. He had pointed to the way modern media and technology had transformed the papacy into a global spectacle. Cameras followed every movement, social media amplified every phrase, and the Pope risked being turned into a celebrity rather than a shepherd. Crowds sometimes greeted him with raised smartphones instead of prayerful gestures, and public fascination threatened to reshape the perception of his role. For Müller, this was not harmless enthusiasm but a distortion that could gradually alter Catholic understanding of authority and faith. He saw the seeds of this transformation already in earlier centuries when the press began to magnify papal personalities, but he believed the current era had intensified it to an unprecedented level. The significance of Müller's audience with Leo XIV became sharper when viewed alongside another meeting that had taken place just days earlier. The Pope had received Roger Mahony, the former Archbishop of Los Angeles, whose name was deeply associated with controversy surrounding the handling of abuse cases in the American Church. Court documents had revealed patterns of moving priests between parishes while civil authorities remained uninformed, actions that had left lasting wounds among victims and faithful alike. When a photograph of Leo XIV standing beside Mahony was released, reactions were swift and emotional. Some expressed dismay and anger, others asked questions about the message being sent, and many wondered how such a meeting fit into the broader vision of the pontificate. The image was not hidden or private, it was public and symbolic, an official gesture that spoke loudly in a church where visual signals often carry as much weight as formal decrees. Within this charged atmosphere, the audience with Müller took on a meaning that went far beyond a simple conversation between two churchmen. Observers saw a stark contrast. On one side, a cardinal known for defending doctrinal clarity and warning against the dangers of personalizing the papacy; on the other, a pontiff whose schedule appeared to hold together figures with radically different reputations and histories. The result was a sense of uncertainty about what the Pope intended to communicate through these encounters. Leo XIV listened widely and welcomed broadly, but many began to ask what discernment guided these gestures and what approval they implied. The Church does not claim to judge individual consciences, yet it governs symbols carefully, and the overlapping messages of recent audiences created a landscape where meaning felt blurred. A deeper paradox emerged. While Müller warned against elevating the Pope into an untouchable figure beyond criticism, the structure of Leo XIV's pontificate seemed to concentrate symbolic power increasingly around the papal office itself. Everything appeared to flow through the Pope's personal decisions and encounters. People and causes gained attention simply by being received by him, and contradictions that might once have been addressed separately now converged in the same space. The very openness intended to foster unity risked reinforcing the idea that the Pope alone could reconcile all tensions, becoming the center that absorbed every disagreement without offering clear criteria. This was precisely the danger Müller had described. When the papacy becomes the point where all contradictions are held together, the Church may lose the clarity that once guided its decisions and teaching. The debate surrounding these audiences was not about denying the Pope's legitimacy or creating empty controversy. Instead, it reflected a genuine tension within contemporary Catholic life. Many believers felt the need for firm doctrine, clear discipline, and visible accountability, especially after years of crisis and scandal. At the same time, there was a strong desire for gestures of inclusion and dialogue, for a church that reached out rather than withdrew. Leo XIV's approach embodied that openness, but critics worried that inclusive gestures could unintentionally relativize essential principles. Supporters saw the meetings as an effort to heal divisions and listen to every voice. Skeptics feared they sent mixed messages that weakened the Church's moral clarity. Some observers interpreted the meeting with Müller as an attempt to reassure those concerned about doctrinal fidelity, a balancing gesture after the controversy surrounding Mahony's visit. Yet others argued that symbolic balance alone could not resolve deeper questions. Receiving one figure after another did not erase previous tensions or neutralize conflicting messages. The issue was not arithmetic fairness but coherence. The sequence of audiences created a narrative that seemed to lack a clear guiding thread, leaving many unsure about the direction of the pontificate and the principles shaping its decisions. As discussions unfolded, one central question came into focus: what kind of unity was taking shape under Leo XIV? Was it a unity rooted in shared truth and defined teaching, as Müller emphasized, or a unity built through broad acceptance that risked holding everything together at the expense of clarity? The answer mattered not only for internal debates but also for how the Church was perceived by the wider world. Müller warned that an overly personalized papacy could resemble the very models of authority that Catholic tradition had long resisted. If the Pope appeared to become an autonomous source of legitimacy, a charismatic figure whose personal choices defined the Church's direction, it could echo historical criticisms that Catholicism had always rejected. The atmosphere surrounding these events was one of intense reflection rather than simple division. Many faithful Catholics found themselves torn between admiration for the Pope's willingness to listen and concern about the signals conveyed by his gestures. Some saw courage in his readiness to engage with figures from all sides, believing that unity required difficult conversations and unexpected encounters. Others feared that the absence of clear distinctions could leave the Church vulnerable to confusion at a time when credibility was already fragile. Conversations unfolded in parishes, seminaries, and online forums, each trying to interpret the meaning behind the Pope's actions and the Cardinal's warnings. Meanwhile, the Vatican itself maintained a calm exterior. Official communications remained measured and minimal, presenting each audience as part of the normal rhythm of papal ministry. Yet the silence on deeper questions allowed speculation to grow. Images circulated widely, commentators analyzed every gesture, and believers searched for signs of a consistent vision. The meeting between Leo XIV and Müller became a focal point for broader concerns about the future of Catholic leadership, authority, and identity in a rapidly changing world. The tension highlighted by these events revealed a church wrestling with its own self-understanding. On one side stood the desire for doctrinal continuity and a stable sense of authority rooted in tradition. On the other stood the pastoral impulse to welcome, listen, and engage even those whose histories were complicated or controversial. Leo XIV's pontificate embodied both impulses, yet the balance between them remained uncertain. Each new audience added another layer to the unfolding narrative, shaping perceptions in ways that no official statement could fully control. As the day of the meeting faded into memory, the questions it raised continued to resonate. The image of the Pope sitting with a cardinal who had publicly criticized the personalization of papal authority became a symbol of the broader struggle to define the Church's path. For some, it offered hope that dialogue could bridge differences and renew unity. For others, it underscored the risk of a leadership style that might unintentionally blur the lines between inclusion and endorsement. The debate was not merely theoretical, it touched on how believers understood authority, tradition, and the meaning of unity itself. In the end, the audience between Leo XIV and Cardinal Müller stood as more than a private exchange of ideas. It became a mirror reflecting the deeper tensions shaping Catholicism today. The Pope's commitment to universal listening opened doors that many welcomed, yet it also created a space where conflicting visions met without always resolving their differences. Müller's warnings echoed as a call to remember the limits of papal authority and the importance of doctrinal clarity, while the Pope's actions embodied a pastoral approach that sought to hold diverse voices together. The unfolding story left the Church at a crossroads, navigating the delicate balance between openness and coherence, between symbolic gestures and the enduring need for clear guidance. If this message touched your heart, like this video and share your thoughts in the comment Amen and stay with us. More Eucharistic stories, deeper reflections, and holy insights are on the way. May Christ in the Eucharist be your light, your rest, your truth. Amen.